Go for up to 8 hours? Well, shit. All right, fantastic. We're going to be
We'll see how long it takes us to talk ourselves out.
Yes, well, I do not have a life, so don't you worry.
No, same.
I don't think I have work
Let me just see where I see the chat.
Yeah, I have a seminar that I can basically just sleep through. It's no big deal. All right, I just tested the link. There we go. Cool stuff. We're good.
That's like our Google Hangouts chat. How do I see the YouTube chat?
Yeah,
I guess just have it open.
Try not to like advertise that because then we'll have some visitors.
What? Wait, what's that?
But try not to advertise the Hangouts link because then we'll have visitors.
Oh no. I meant how to see the YouTube chat. Hi, if people are watching. We're gonna start it. We're just figuring some things out. I don't know if anyone can say this.
Really good at this. My cat is destroying my backdrop.
Oh yeah, we're great.
Because he's very good and very bad.
What's that?
My cat is destroying my backdrop.
Hey, I locked my dog out of there.
And I love him.
For you guys watching, is it... Oh shit, someone texted me. It's all choppy. Can you guys watching see us okay? Hear us okay? How the hell do I see the chat?
New holding. Potentially inappropriate messages for review? Sure. So are you on your live, like from your YouTube studio, your live channel? Like where it says live, stream health, and all that cool stuff?
Oh, okay.
Over on the right, you might have to hit like turn on to like take away bad stuff. But then you can do the chat here. So hi everyone. I'm trying to stay on this screen as much as I can.
It's not letting me switch, damn it. Looks like
their CPU usage.
Let me see if I can get it on my phone. Hold up. There we go. Hold up. Damn, it seems the videos.
Oh, it's
okay. Now I can see the chat, you guys.
I wouldn't watch it at the same time. It's going to be really off. You like have it on mute in the background just to make sure.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure. Okay, you guys. So you guys are good with seeing everything, hearing everything. My computer friggin' sucks. So sorry. Cool. Should we maybe wait a minute for people to get in?
30 seconds a minute. It's up to you. I'm pulling up stuff on my phone too.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, my internet just occasionally, despite how much I'm paying for it, just goes out sometimes. If that happens, I'll have my phone with me. It'll have data on it. I'll like send you a message to let you know, hey, I will be back. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, same with me. My computer sucks.
Yeah. The bad thing is that'll mess up the stream, but yeah, happens.
Yeah, mine's frozen.
But there we go. Happens.
Yeah, mine's. Is mine totally frozen?
Well, look, it sounded good to me. Stream looks good. It's a great start to my first stream, everyone. We're doing really well here.
Okay, good. People said they can hear us. So you think we should get started?
Let's do it.
All right. One sec, let me nix this. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. This is my very first live stream, first live debate. Sorry, my computer sucks. I might have some technical problems, but we're doing our best. Hopefully, maybe we'll do another one in the future. But anyway, I want to say thank you so much to my guests today, Justin /Jangles /ScienceLad /SJW Debates. You have so many names, I don't know what they are.
Justin's
seriously,
fine for
thank
today.
you so much for awesome. Seriously, thank you so much for coming, because I've been trying to do a debate with somebody for months and nobody would say yes. So I'm a little bit outmatched by you. I don't quite have your level of expertise or degrees or anything, but I'll do my best.
Don't worry about it, man. We're not here to yell at each other. We're gonna have a nice civil conversation. We're gonna do super good. As a token of goodwill to all of your fans that are watching, I have a nice new green backdrop. So if I'm shitty to Mike, or if you just don't like me as a person, feel free to edit weird and embarrassing things behind me. So there you go.
And I have my ugly curtains, as always. I had to start filming in my living room my videos because people were so upset about my ugly curtains all the time. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll get rid of them. So anyway, we're going to be talking about a couple different things. We have some topics, the walkaway town hall, LGBT issues, children transitioning, gay culture, politics, etc. So anyway, I guess we'll introduce ourselves. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Mikey. I'm a former leftist, former Democrat, staunch independent. I'm a little bit involved with the walkaway movement. What else do you not know? I should say I'm a total layperson. Like I said, Justin is very academic, and I'm like a guy who tells dick jokes on the internet. So, I'm not an expert. I'm a total layperson. You should not be getting your information from me in any way. But hopefully people like what I have to say, and that's about it. Over to you.
Cool. So my name is Justin. I am a fledgling YouTuber. I currently have what I would consider like 2.5 videos up, to actual videos where I did research and wrote a script and everything like that, and then some nonsense extra stuff that I kind of did for school. And hey, it's 2019. The way we do assignments now is we make YouTube videos. That's just how grad school works in 2019. So you did mention I am an academic, which means I'm in a master's program at my university. I'm a master's student in biomechanics. And if you don't know what that is, just take all the meathead stuff you see at the gym and imagine adding more numbers to it. That's essentially what biomechanics is, which means I'm also not an expert in any of the topics that we're talking about today. So please do not take my word as like the academic or scientific consensus truth. I like to think that I can read studies, but if I'm wrong about something, I want you to tell me, especially if it's something having to do with the research. So don't take my word as gospel.
Same. So should we just get into it then, I guess?
Sure. If you want to lead off.
Yeah, sure. So first thing we're going to discuss is the walkaway town hall sort of thing. So I guess I'll just fill you guys in for those who might not know about it. So what the walkaway movement is basically a diverse group of people who are former leftists, former Democrats. For some of them, maybe even most of them, they've become pro-Trump or Republican. For me, I'm an independent. So anyway, we were having an LGBT town hall to discuss these things. And we had it at the LGBT Center. Money was paid, contracts were signed. They were good with it. They actually thought it was a good idea. Then after days of misinformation and people flipping out and saying we're horrible people and everything, they canceled. So we had our event at another place, but it's basically the main issue is sort of the LGBT community not representing all LGBT people. So I guess that's just the sort of the background on it. I guess I'll throw it over to you.
Cool. So just to get a tiny bit more background on us, roughly how old are you? You don't have to tell me like your actual age if you don't want to. Just roughly like 20s, 30s-ish. Depends on the light.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's my birthday on Sunday. I'm friggin' turning 30.
Okay. So I'm 28. Look at this gray hair. Okay. So I'm 20. So we're roughly the same age. And just from watching, so I've watched most of your videos, especially related to this stuff. Did you grow up in a city, and I consider anything over like a few thousand people a city. Am I getting that vibe correct?
Yeah, I'm from New York.
Okay, cool. So I'm from a tiny town in eastern Kentucky, a coal mining town, super duper conservative. And I think that's kind of interesting that we have like opposite beginnings, because I started out conservative just like everyone around me. And then as I got older, I switched more and more to the left. So to kind of sum up my whole position on this, the people in Eastern Kentucky are some of the nicest people you ever meet. All right, so they will, no matter if you're gay or black or even trans, they will invite you in, most of them, and they will feed you lots and lots of cornbread. So they're really good people. But come election day, they are overwhelmingly going to vote for anti-LGBT policies. So my whole crux is I'm not super interested in whether or not you're a good or bad person. I'm more interested in the policies that you put forth. Because whether or not you're a really great person who makes fantastic cornbread, who's going to be really nice to me, or you're an actual bigot, a horrible person who hates queers, you're going to hit the same button on the ballot box. And that's ultimately what I'm kind of concerned about here.
Sure. Actually, I totally agree with that. And I think that is actually why. The thing is, it ultimately doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. There are things that we're just not going to agree on, not you and I, but just people in general when it comes to taxes and the role of government or abortion, whatever it might be. But the important thing, and that I think a group like Walkaway, or that people who are sort of on the cultural center right now are doing, that's really important. I won't speak for myself because I'm not a Republican, but for my friends who are in Walkaway and stuff like that, I think that they're fulfilling an important role by making the Republican Party, more inclusive and more accepting of LGBT people. Because of course we know what the history is, what they were like 10 years ago. And I think that they have gotten progressively more accepting of LGBT people. There's definitely still some remnants of that in the party. But, actually at our event, at the very end of it, we were accosted by this guy who I would consider to be basically like a right-wing extremist who was very anti-gay, anti-trans. He was yelling shit at Blair, calling her a man, telling us that we're pedophiles and we're pushing the homosexual agenda, which I think is very rare. That was the first person like that I had ever met. And when that happened, it occurred to me that this is why the LGBT Center should not have canceled our event, because we are the ones fighting against that mentality. And I really think for the people that you mentioned who are coal miners in Kentucky, there's nothing they can relate to about a guy in a leather thong on top of a pride float. But when they see like-minded people who share their values and in some instances share their way of life, that's only a good thing. That's only going to make them more accepting of LGBT people.
And that can certainly happen. I've seen a lot of other stuff. So, for example, I'm going to reference a lot of people who are just way smarter than me. So, ContraPoints did a pretty cool video, and in it, she kind of said that about Blair White. She is very useful. So when she talks to Ben Shapiro, they kind of can find common ground because they agree so much ideologically on a lot of stuff. They're both to the right. I think that's fair to say. Is that fair to say that Blair's to the right? Not alt-right, just to the right?
Yeah, center-right.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of useful that they can talk to each other because he's going to be more open to that stuff too. Now, the flip side of that is, and I think this is a very real risk, is that actual bigots and people who are super far right love to hear minority groups spouting things that are in line with their ideology, so they can say, hey, look, Blair White also thinks being transgender is a mental illness. I'm not being bigoted. It's just the facts. Even this trans person agrees with me. So that's kind of the concern that I have. And I know that line is really hard to walk. And and gay Republicans, I'm nothing against gay Republicans in general, but when you put your status as a gay person or a trans person or a black person up on that pedestal and say, I am this and I'm a Republican, that's fine unless you're using it to obfuscate some actual bad things going on the right.
I mean, I think there are bad things everywhere, but I think the only thing that somebody like Blair or myself or any right-leaning minority can do is to just be clear, very clear with your words and clear about where you stand on things. Because there definitely are people, I mean, I won't name names, but I think there are definitely some people who in the past couple years have sort of profited by winking and nudging at unsavory people and intentionally obfuscating where they stand on certain things. And I think that people like myself and Blair and Brandon and even Ben Shapiro don't do that. I think we try to be clear with our words. And in terms of Blair, she says being trans is a mental illness. I think she's always been very clear that it's not that trans people are mentally ill. It's that gender dysphoria is a condition, and transitioning is the remedy to that.
She might have changed her opinion fairly recently. And if I'm wrong on this, again, please send me stuff, message me on Twitter, let me know where I'm wrong on this. But in the past, she did say transgenderism is a mental illness. I remember a few pretty clear examples. Her on Jesse Lee Peterson's show. You know who Jesse Lee Peterson is?
Oh, God. Yeah, I know Jesse Lee Peterson.
Okay, that's the correct face to make. But she was on his show.
Yes.
And she was.
I agree.
And maybe she didn't speak clearly. We can give people the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what she meant if people came away with that thinking this trans person is saying that being trans is mental illness. So I'm not bigoted.
Well, I mean,
that's just how it is.
No, I think she said that. I think she made a video. I think she made a video called that too. I mean, I don't remember her exact words, but I don't know. I feel like if other people attach something negative to mental illness, then like, I don't think mental illness should be a negative thing. I think that's kind of fair to say, to call it. I mean, those aren't the words that I want to choose because they have negative connotations to them, but it is a condition.
That's fair. Yeah,
not trans people, but gender dysphoria itself.
I agree with that 100%. So I also have mental illness. I've had depression. I've had ADHD in the past. So there are things that I live with. And when I get treatment for them, I guess I might be really lucky here, but medication has really, really, really helped me with that. So I would say I have these things, but they're under control and I'm being treated for them. Much like someone with gender dysphoria who gets treatment. And I think you've been pretty clear about this. You think that getting treatments may or may not involve hormones or what have you, but getting the treatment to transition to the next gender could be transition genders could be very, very useful in alleviating that gender dysphoria to the point where you can be trans and not have gender dysphoria, or at least have it under control and essentially not have a mental illness. I'm using very broad strokes here. Again, please do not take medical advice from me, please.
No, same with me. I agree with that, and I think Blair would probably agree with that. That's definitely my view on it, that gender dysphoria is the condition or whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't make trans people mentally ill or, you know.
Yeah, of course. The issue becomes...
I was just going to say, I think going back to what we were talking about, though, is I think this is why you see a lot of minorities trending towards the center right, because I think a lot of us are so tired of the conformity and the identity politics, and I think a lot of us are really sort of coming out to say, I'm more than gay, I'm more than trans, I'm more than black. And I think a lot of us are sick of the collective mentality that tells us everything, that feeds us an entire worldview just because of our sexuality or our race or our gender. I know for me personally, when I was a kid, when I was closeted as a teenager, the thing that scared me most about coming out was that I would always be seen as the gay guy. I would never get to be my own person. In every room I walked into, I would just be gay first. And I feel like that's something that LGBT people need to fight past. And it feels like we've gotten past that. And it feels like now the left is bringing us right back to that place where you're defined by your gender, by your race, by your sexual orientation.
So there's two ways that we can approach this. So one, I'll tell you my story a little bit too. I didn't come out. When I say come out, like fully, I mean to my family. That's the big coming out. There's the first time you tell somebody, and there's the first time you tell your parents. I think for most of us, that's a different time.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there. Was that, again, don't share anything and stop me if I ever get too personal. Was that the case for you? Did you come out to someone before your parents? You don't have to.
Oh yeah, of course. I think that's the case for everyone.
Okay, so yeah, I came out to friends in high school, and then I didn't come out to my parents until I was 26. Because I came out because I was proposed. I was engaged. So it's kind of hard to hide at that point.
You make me wish I lived in Kentucky, where things like that happen.
Well, I'm only married.
I mean, maybe not many reasons, but
we got great music. I'm a banjo and fiddle player myself because I love the culture, but also in Kentucky, I would not have this if it wasn't for that 2015 court decision. We would not have passed it. So, I'm sorry. What was I talking about? I say, oh yeah, because maybe that'll trigger whatever synapses got lost. What were we talking about? I'm sorry. Where was I?
Just being by our immutable
You were okay.
characteristics.
Yeah, you were worried about
identity politics.
Gay guy. So I kind of had a similar, albeit maybe slightly darker and less okay thing. Is that when I was growing up, gay people were huge homos. They wore pink nail polish. That's what they did. They wore dresses. They pranced around. Every single one of them pranced around in dresses and pink nail polish. Had a very accurate representation. Thank you, Eastern Kentucky educational system. So when I first was coming out to friends and stuff, I'm not like one of those sissy queers. I'm manly. I lift weights. I'm a bodybuilder. I grow a beard. I wear like man clothes. I'm not like one of those queers. And then after that, so yeah, identity is a huge part here. And being gay, it's really hard to be a sexual minority and not have that affect somehow how you interact with the world. Some people can do it really fine. Some people don't. And honestly, neither one is wrong. If being gay is a big part of who you are and how you identify, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's whether or not you have to. And past that, then I felt like, well, I need to help normalize what being gay is. I want to say, because, I'm not stereotypical. I keep saying that word. There's nothing wrong with being stereotypically gay. And I've let myself, I squeal a lot. I cry a lot. I'll let myself do that a lot more often than I used to because I got a beard.
I think for me, I agree. There's nothing wrong with being stereotypically gay. My issue with some people like that is, in my experience, I feel like it's very often an act. That's their way of trying to fit in. Because like you said, it's what you see everywhere. It's very crowd-pleasing because it's non-threatening.
Well, especially, and you might at least know about this. Again, I'm not trying to pry into your personal life, but when you first come out, you got to be real gay. It's like that person who converted to Catholicism in their 30s. You got to do it all at once. You're making up for lost time. So everything, you got pride flags everywhere. You got all this kind of stuff. And I think that's really, really common, especially for younger queer people. I feel so fucking old because there are adults who are gay who are 10 years younger than me. But especially when I was growing up, if it was okay to make that I need to phrase my words carefully here. You felt like you were making up for lost time and you had this new identity that you weren't allowed to explore before. And especially if you get into an environment like college where your parents aren't looking over your shoulder, where there aren't people back home who have known you your entire life who are going to be really freaked out. It's kind of where that release valve is just let open. And and there might be ways to act stereotypically gay because that's a signifier like, hey, I'm gay. Are there other gay people here? I want to know if you're here. I need my people. I'm reaching out for that thing we have in common. Yeah. And also, can we rub our faces together? I don't know how gay sex works yet. Eastern Kentucky.
Just to bring it back to what we were talking about, because we started talking about the walkaway town hall, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were one of the people who wanted it
by the way,
canceled or something you wanted to talk about. So if there was anything you wanted to bring up,
okay.
Oh, sure. So just if there was anything you wanted to mention about that, or
so with the identity politics, so there's a couple things that if you're gay,
or we started talking about, because you had said you wanted to discuss one of the things was the walkaway town hall event. So if there's anything you had to say about that.
So something that I would a criticism I would levy, and I hope you take this in good faith, that I would levy against you guys, is that a lot of it was, you're gay, so you don't have to think a certain way, or you don't have to think a certain way if you're trans, or you don't have to think a certain way if you're black. But when this criticism was levied against you, one of your defenses seemed to have been, and I've seen it from all of them, they're saying that two or three gay guys, one of whom is black, and a trans woman are bigoted, they're homophobic. How can that be? And that's kind of saying that I can't be these things. I can't think this way because I have this identity. And that seems to run antithetical to your entire position that if you're gay, you don't have to think a certain way. That includes good things. That also includes bad things.
I mean, I'm sure it does, I guess anything is possible. And maybe there are, some black white supremacists out there. I've never heard of one, but
do you remember,
it's just the fact is we are not. like I said, we're people who are trying to make them more inclusive. And I do think that it's kind of preposterous to say a Jew is a Nazi, a black guy is a white supremacist, a trans woman is a transphobe. And maybe I'm not saying it's totally impossible for that to be with somebody, but the fact is we're just not.
Oh, and again, I'm not here to call anybody any names like that, but it could. And there's also the issue, like, what does it take to be a transphobe? Like, it's like a light switch. Like, you just get it to that one point and then, transphobe. I think it's fair to say that there are layers to it. I think all of us have prejudices. But let's bring it back to I hate that. Remember Jesse Lee Peterson? You said you made the correct face earlier. He's someone I would consider a legit white supremacist. He is a black man. He's a legit white supremacist, though. There's nothing he says that a white supremacist wouldn't just be all up in and parrot word for word. So, and him being black.
I mean, I don't know. I don't quite know enough about him to say that, but I also think he's somebody. What's that?
I'll say, please keep it that way for your own mental health.
But I don't know. I think he's very sort of. He's not a very mainstream figure. He's not like, I think that's something that's just very rare. And that is something that we're seeing a lot now, I think, where any person, like the amount of times I've been told I hate myself because I have disagreements with the gay culture, or, you know, Candace Owens gets called a white supremacist. But I think with many of us, I know this is true for me and Blair and many people, is that, you know, even just take LGBT out of it and just take the gay issues, for example. I get accused of I hate myself and I'm homophobic and I'm anti-gay. No, it's not out of hate that I call out my issues with the gay culture. It is out of a profound love for the gay community that I think we are on a wrong track. If I didn't care, if I hated them, I just wouldn't say anything.
And I agree with that.
And also that we're being sort of then defined by our most extreme voices. Like, you know, for example, the here, I actually have their exact thing, but the LGBT Center, for example, on their website, they say that they are about empowering LGBT people, building strong community. The LGBT Center empowers people to lead healthy, successful lives. The center celebrates our diversity and advocates for justice and opportunity. But they've shown that they don't care for empowering all LGBT people or true diversity, because the thing is, I think we're all four of us are pretty much center right. I'm an independent. None of us are Jesse Lee Peterson. So I think if my political compass test is literally on the line in the middle. So I think if somebody like me is too far right to speak for them, then I don't know who one person would be that would be allowed to speak there that isn't a leftist.
So the issue here is a matter of definitions. When we see, say, the LGBT community, it's sometimes hard to tell what we're talking about, but oftentimes we're talking about a political movement and the political aims of LGBT people. So increased gay rights. So we got the gay marriage. That's great. Now we're moving on to, you know, anti-discrimination ordinances, making sure everybody can adopt in every state. Trans issues, making sure that, you know, being trans is a legal thing and you're not legally defined by what's on your birth certificate like some people are trying to do. So in order for that political movement to be successful, we do have to share common goals. And we have to think, what is the broad community? How are we going to come together as a political movement to move forward? Because for a political movement to move forward, not necessarily just a social one, but for a political one, and we're talking about Republicans and Democrats and stuff like that, we are talking about the political movement. We have to be on the same page. We have to be moving towards that goal, because the more splintered you get, the more pushback you get either side or backwards, the less successful your political movement is going to become. And so something I would really caution you against is to say groupthink be really specific and really kind of question yourself when you say groupthink versus consensus. Because just because everybody thinks a certain way.
But I don't think it is.
But when I say consensus, I just mean most people think like that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And again, if there's something you really disagree with,
I don't think it is most people. I think. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. It's just so you guys know, there's a little bit of a delay, so if it sounds weird. Sorry. Tell me what you just said again.
So I was cautioning you, saying just groupthink versus consensus.
Oh yeah, most people. Well, yeah, I don't agree that it is most people. I like the people who speak for the LGBT community. They haven't been elected. They haven't. And the thing is, I know so many people who don't agree with any of these things. For example, I just had a conversation with my friend John, who we made a video, and it'll be on my channel, and he's a trans man, and was telling me that he went to the LGBT center for support groups and stuff, and suddenly there are all these things being pushed on him about abortion, about gun control, about it is just the whole Democratic Party platform. And those have nothing. What does abortion have to do with LGBT? LGBT people will never have to deal with that. So when it goes past LGBT issues, I mean, maybe, but when it goes past LGBT issues, and we don't even all agree on LGBT issues. I don't agree with the bakery cake issue. Like, there is so much diversity amongst all of us, and I think we all deserve a voice. And I don't think that our entire personhood should be defined by our politics.
No, of course not. But again, we have to separate the political movement from gay culture and what have you like that. The political movement has to be unified, or at least as close as we can get to it, or it's going to be ineffective.
But then where does the political movement end and LGBT people begin?
Really blurry. It always depends on the person. And that's going to be true of any political movement.
But it seems like there just is no room for individualism or any sort of personhood beyond leftist politics.
But we also have to consider that LGBT, a lot of our existence is kind of dictated politically. I couldn't have a family up until 2015. That's a huge part of my life that is dictated via politics.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Say that again.
So I'll start over. So LGBT as a community, a lot of our existence is dictated and controlled by policies. So for example, until 2015, when I was 25, when a lot of my friends were already married, I could not get married and start a family in the state of Kentucky. Now, 25, that used to be like, you should have already had 2 kids by now. But that's
yeah.
A little bit. But you got to think, so that was a direct impact on my life, and that was very, very political. So it's you can't separate politics from life.
But I think
they are one and the same in a lot of places.
I mean, I don't agree with that, but I think well, 2 things about sorry, what was I going to say? Well, first of all, I think small government it is in many cases, small government wouldn't come in and push these things. It's people in the past that have done that. And I'm sorry, what the hell did you say that I want to respond to? I lost my train of thought.
That politics and personal life.
What did you say just before that?
My state wouldn't let me get married.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I know gay marriage. The thing is, I feel like gay marriage was successful. It was truly unprecedented how quickly things changed on gay rights. Because for me, I sort of caught the tail end of it in terms of our society being widely homophobic. Like the first couple years that I came out, there wasn't a day that it wasn't an issue. Like it was just a different planet compared to now. And I feel like that happened because at the time, a few years ago in 2012 or whenever that was, the gay community did things differently than they are doing things today. We put forward normal, ordinary house husbands to say, we are no different than you. We all want the same things. And that's why it was so successful. And also they had an ethos, the gay community at the time had an ethos of, you stay out of my business, I'll stay out of yours. I think if they did back then what they're doing today and just amplified the most radical extreme voices, there would be no gay rights. There would be no gay marriage.
What are some radical extreme voices do you think are on the right, on the left right now?
I mean,
what are some of those voices?
I think it's all of them. I think it's how the LGBT community as a whole operates. Like, I think
can you give
everything,
me some specific examples
or most things. Well, should we get into our other topics? Is a pretty, children transitioning, child drag queens.
Did we talk enough about the?
I don't personally agree.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's anything you want to say. What's that?
So I'm trying to think if there's any last points I want to make on the town hall. So, for the record, I think you should be able to have that. But a big thing that I'll tell you is that we were not criticizing you because you were gay or trans or black or what have you. If anything, we were saying the ideas that you're pushing, we don't agree with. So if we want to talk about identity politics, and that'll probably come up later, it wasn't your identity that we were concerned with. It was those ideas. It's, yeah, we should.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do think what I've observed over the past couple. Just something I've observed over the past couple of years is I do think there is a particular viciousness that black people, gay people, trans people, etc., are targeted with when they don't agree with the left, when they don't say the things that they're supposed to. And just one point I want to make about this is something I heard a lot that a lot of people told me was this was shut down because the community rejected it. The vast majority of people didn't want us to speak. And I just wanted to point out the open letter that caused them to cancel it was signed by something like 260 something people. 25% of those were anonymous. So if you take out the anonymous ones, that's 212 people that signed the open letter to cancel our event, which if you look at the population of LGBT people in New York, that is 5/100ths of 1%. So I do think LGBT people are a lot more diverse intellectually, philosophically than you'll be led to believe.
Yeah, but as a political movement, we're all generally in favor of gay marriage, I hope.
Yeah.
Anti-discrimination.
Yeah, we are, but
in general, I think
it depends on what they are.
Don't
like
be able to be fired for being gay?
Masterpiece v. Cake Shop. No.
So the cake shop stuff wasn't one of our topics.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that. I was just gonna say I don't agree with it.
If it comes up later, I do.
Yeah, sure.
I'm all about maximizing freedom, but that doesn't mean absolute freedom.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, if the LGBT Center, which says they're nonpartisan, by the way, and they regularly have democratic socialist meetings there, but if they say they're nonpartisan, then what exactly is a space for all LGBT people? Either all who are either any political ideology or no political
can you tell me the name of that place again?
Ideology. What?
Can you tell me the name of the place that rejected you again?
Oh, the LGBT Center.
Oh, just called the LGBT Center. Really? That's not going to be more creative than that? New York City.
Well, that's the thing, though. When you say, I feel like if you say you are for a center for all LGBT people, then it should be for all LGBT people. Is
this a government facility?
I'm not. I know they are funded with taxpayer money. I'm not sure if it would be considered.
It has a ton of corporate partners.
What's that?
It has a ton of corporate partners for if it is a
shocker
facility. But I'm saying, well, if you're in favor of the Masterpiece Cake Shop refusing gay people, they can kind of do what they want.
I am.
Right?
Wait, what's that?
If you're in favor of the Masterpiece Cake Shop.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you're in favor of the Masterpiece Cake Shop refusing service for gay people, you kind of have to be in favor of them refusing service to you. I mean, you can't call it censorship. You can't call it like...
It's their right to do... Well, first of all, they're a 501c3, so I think that's a little bit of a difference. But also,
if I'm wrong on that,
it's totally their right to cancel us. I don't want them to be forced to have us. I think the point that should be made is that, they could have turned us down initially and it would have been no problem. But they agreed to it. They had no problem with us. But it's sort of always this loud, militant, very tiny minority that controls what the rest of us can say and think.
And I honestly don't see that, because them shutting that down wasn't controlling what you thought. You were still, so a big part of
no, but it's controlling.
You're still allowed to think the things that you want to think, regardless of whether or not it goes against the grain. The issue becomes if, as a political movement, the LGBT community, this is what we need to do to gain as many rights as we possibly can. And if those rights aren't going to negatively impact the dissenters, so you might not think that the Masterpiece Cake Shop should have to serve gay people, but if we push for them, yeah, if you want to be a business that benefits from taxpayer money, yeah, you do, because that's how a free society should work. That decision on our part, or the larger part, is not going to impact you nearly as much as you as a dissenter saying that no, businesses should be able to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. So the difference there is one.
No, I don't think they should be able to.
I'm sorry?
No, I don't think they should be able to, but I don't think they should be able to. I think with Masterpiece v. Cake Shop, not to get too much into the weeds on that, but just one quick point. For me, do I think that a restaurant or a bar or a grocery store should be able to say we won't serve gay people? Absolutely not. With that, it was a custom service, which I think is a distinction. However, the point is, who knows, a significant portion of LGBT people don't want them to be forced to have to do a custom service, don't want these things. And if a large portion of the LGBT community even doesn't want that, then I don't think they have any business saying that they have to.
A large portion.
That wasn't
does,
articulated well, but you know
That's
what I
fine.
mean.
No, I think a large portion does though. Like I don't want to have to think. So when I go out, and I've already had my wedding. By the way, I spent $70 on my wedding. Kids, that's how you do it. Okay.
What?
You get 4 Domino's
Hell
pizzas,
yes.
You invite people to your apartments and you play Mario Kart. That's your wedding, okay? Don't spend a shit ton of money that you do not have. Okay? But if I
love
had
that because I freaking hate weddings.
Oh, it was great. It took 10 minutes. It was 170 degrees outside. And we got married in polo shirts. It was awesome.
But that's why actually, we'll get to this a little bit later, but that's actually a point I think is that, when I say things about the gay culture, I've only ever lived in New York, so I'm particularly talking about New York. I think it speaks to the overall gay culture because that's where all the LGBT stuff is centrally located. But I think that is a distinction. I think you, whether you like it or not, picked up some Kentucky values along the way. I think that is
absolutely
something that you don't see as commonly amongst gay men in places like New York.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of country values. I don't think I have an accent, but if I go back home or if I'm on the phone with mom, it comes right back. I actually
Same. I hear your accent though.
I seriously cannot do the accent, like of my own free will. I sound like from the bayou. It doesn't sound good at all, but it comes back naturally, and I can't stop it. Basically, just elongate your eyes.
So
say oh hi, ashtray. That's basically all it is to it. I was going somewhere with that. So if I had gone out in concert with my,
I was going to say, should we move on to our next topic?
Last point I'll say. I think that's just for that last little bit of versus consensus versus groupthink and stuff like that. I think as a gay movement, it is going to be more beneficial for all of us if we say you cannot discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation, even for things like commissioning arts. Well, commissioning arts is a little bit different, but a cake that just says, "Hey, Justin and Bobby J." My husband's name is totally Bobby J. You should go look that up. But if like these two getting married, I don't think that's a good enough reason. I don't think the harm caused by them is equal to the harm caused to the LGBT community, because that's still saying you got to go into the right businesses if you want this service. And I think that's is.
I mean, obviously, I don't agree with. I obviously don't agree with a business that would choose to do that. But the thing is, I don't really see what the harm is in going to another bakery. And there are many solutions you have. You can protest them. You can spread the word. You can not give them your business. I just don't believe in the government forcing a custom service them to do that, because I think there are a lot of other ways it could be applied. Like, I don't think a gay baker should be forced to make a cake for the Westboro Baptist Church, Do you
think that's different though? Are they being discriminated?
Not really. I think once the government. I mean, for my personal morals, I personally do, but I don't think the government can instill that. I think they have to just have things that apply to everybody. And I think once the government takes power, they never give it back, and it will just always go further and further.
Well, some of these protected classes are, so sexual orientation, that includes straight people. So people saying that we're getting extra rights are just legally wrong. There's no basis in reality for that. So you can't discriminate against someone on the basis of them being straight either. So any protections that would apply to us as gay men would also apply to our quote unquote opposites. It would apply to straight people too. You can't discriminate based on the basis of sexual orientation if they're straight. You can't discriminate against someone on the basis of their religion. However, there's nothing in your religion that says God hates fags. You have to do that. And saying no, you should not be forced to make a cake that says God hates fags. That's not on the basis of religion. That's on the basis of hate speech. That things that are already protected there. So
I mean, I agree with you on a personal level, but I don't believe in the government enforcing that when it comes to something custom. For me, it is a very clear distinction between a custom service and sweeping discrimination. If a bar puts up a no gays sign, that I agree.
Okay, we got a little off. Is there anything we want to say, or do you want to go ahead and move on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on.
I think
what was the next topic?
We're good. So next topic is the role of LGBT education with children.
Sure. All right. Want me to start on this one?
We'll are you guys there? Wait. Are you frozen?
Uh-oh. Am
Are
I?
you frozen? Can you guys see me? Let me just check the. Can you guys see me? I think it's okay.
We're checking.
Somebody let me know in the chat if you can see. Okay, yeah, it's fine now. Sorry. Yes, you start.
Okay, I was checking. All right, so LGBT education for children. So,
oh, by the way, sorry not to cut you off. I was just going to say, we'll just so you guys know, we'll try to take questions at the end. We're not really looking at the chat right now, but towards the end, we'll try to take questions. Anyway, sorry.
okay.
Go.
So I just told you about my education. That was being a little bit hyperbolic to be a joke, but there's some definite truth there. So there's always a little bit of truth behind jokes. I actually did think that gay people were sissies and they all wore pink fingernail polish. I literally thought the first gay person I ever saw, I saw a dude at an academic meet with pink nail polish. I thought, that's a gay. I finally saw a gay. That's what they are. That's how you know they're gay. They wear pink nail polish. It would have been pretty cool if I had known anything about what gay people were actually like as part of my education. Because you cannot, especially in parts of the country where I come from, those deep red states in the mountains, you can't expect that the parents are going to teach you because my parents didn't like it. And it was just morally wrong.
Well, I think for me, I think we need to define what LGBT education is considered and what children are considered, like how old we're talking.
Sure. So we develop, based on the literature that I'm familiar with, kids develop a sense of gender. They know it's a thing by the time they're around 2 or 3. So this isn't a concept that is foreign to someone going into kindergarten, or at least for most people. Of course, there's some developmental differences in people, but generally we have an idea that we have boys and girls by the time we're heading into kindergarten. So gender is not something that is too far past where they are developmentally. It's not something that is too adult for them to talk about. We have boys, we have girls, and maybe it wouldn't be a bad time to say, well, there's people in between too.
Yeah, sorry, it was choppy a little bit, but I was gonna say, for me, I think it depends on what education is. Like, if that means should we be teaching Stonewall or the AIDS crisis in history class? Absolutely, that's American history. But if it means, you know, should 6-year-olds write gay love letters to each other, or it really be pushed on young children, or drag queen story time, I'm not for that.
Drag queen story
I
time,
I think it's too much. I don't think it's age appropriate. What's that?
What's wrong with drag queen story time? We got big, like bright colors, big personalities reading to kids. That sounds awesome.
That it's fucking weird, and every person that thinks it's weird. And I just hate the fact that LGBT people always have to be associated with the dysfunctional, the weird. I don't agree with it being pushed on small children, toddlers, and kids in diapers. I don't think it's right. It's not necessarily like, you know, for me, I'm a fucking weirdo as a person, as who I am. But I don't think that's the case because I'm gay. And I hate the fact that everything associated with LGBT always has to be strange and weird and dysfunctional when it took so long for us to convince society that being gay or trans is just normal, involuntary, natural. And so for culturally us to be associated with everything that most people would probably have a problem with, I don't think it's a positive thing.
So like
the thing with, I'm sorry.
So like the healthy, well-adjusted adult 28-year-old man that I am, I watch a lot of children's cartoons. And there's a lot of weird stuff there. One of my favorite shows on Netflix, one of my favorite cartoons is called Cupcake and Dino. That's a really, really weird show. It's completely out there and off the wall. So weird things that are outside the norm are like super common for kids programming, and we don't see a problem with it for good reason. Because something can be weird and strange and still be okay for kids, still teach good messages. So I guess my question here is...
No, I agree.
Drag queens are weird.
I'm sorry.
If there was a woman, like a cis woman who was in that exact same garb with that same mannerisms, is that okay to teach to kids? And if so, why?
I mean, it would depend on what it is. If it's something that's sort of sexualized, I don't think so. And I grew up with Ren and Stimpy and Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I am all about kids being
We're all
exposed to
already
things that
messed
are
up.
offbeat. But what's that?
So we're already messed up. That's why.
Oh yeah,
Ren and Stimpy.
our
generation.
It again for me goes back to individualism, that I'm all for kids being offbeat in their own ways, but I hate that it's always associated with LGBT. And I think in particular with Drag Queen Story Hour, again, you had said that LGBT is political, but that isn't the case when it's just a general class of children. And I looked up the books that are being.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sure, that's a definite distinction. There's no overt political messaging, or there doesn't have to be with Drag Queen Story Hour. That could be that.
Well, but the thing is, I looked up the books that are being read at this Drag Queen story time. There's Feminist Baby, The Boy Who Cried Fabulous. Elsa Has 7 Daddies. So now we're teaching kids about polygamy too. And one called Whiteness and Other Horrible Things. So It really is pushing an ideological agenda on children.
So what is the distinction you draw between indoctrinating children and teaching children?
I think when something has such an overtly one-sided political message, then I think that without ever being exposed to the other side, and that is also my issue with a lot of the LGBT stuff with children, is that it's a very rosy, glamorized picture. They're not being taught of the hardships that come along with being LGBT. It's just always shown as this wonderful, desirable, glamorous thing. So and there's never an alternative perspective being shown.
What would the alternative perspective, age appropriate? What would the alternative perspective on LGBT education look like to kids?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me personally, I think all a small child really needs to know if they ask about LGBT is some boys like boys, some girls like girls, some people are transgender. We don't discriminate. We love and accept everybody, and you will worry about that when you're older. Like, I don't see the need for them to know more than that.
So it seems like Drag Queen Story Hour, where they're reading The Boy is Fabulous. Hey, if you're a boy, if you have boy parts, but you want to act this way, you absolutely can. If you don't want to act this way, you can also do that. The counterpoint to LGBT education is just the rest of education. So seeing that, yeah, there's lots of straight people, lots of straight relationships in all the rest of the shows that you're watching. They're getting that other perspective, and they're saying, hey, also, gay people are a thing. Also, that really fun, like big brassy woman that comes teaches us, she's really funny. I really like her. She's very engaging. I like reading with her. There's nothing overtly sexual about I'm assuming, so a lot of drag queens are cisgender men. There's nothing overtly sexual about a cisgender man performing drag. There's nothing overtly sexual about it inherently. It certainly can be done that way, but a lot of things, like wearing a swimsuit, can be done in a sexual way. That doesn't mean we shouldn't, keep kids away from beaches. So what I'm concerned with is...
No, not beaches, but I don't think we should bring people in swimsuits into the classroom.
Yeah, in the classroom.
I don't think that would be appropriate.
Well, probably don't, wear your...
Or in a library.
You probably don't wear your thong to the library, but a dress and like a big long dress and a big wig, super awesome makeup, just rocking the whatever this is called, where it's like a color.
Well, but when I don't see the need of, and it seems like this is happening in many places. This is something we discussed that I had mentioned in my video about LGBT stuff being pushed on children, is a teacher who's responsible for training kindergarten teachers who said it's their job to turn kids queer. Or another school where 6-year-olds have to write gay love letters to each other. I mean, I think kids writing love letters, period, is wrong. If you're 6, it seems that children are just being sexualized at a younger and younger and younger age. I want
to quickly touch on that, because I do think that you genuinely want the best for kids, and you genuinely want the best for the LGBT community. That first story about the turning kids queer, you're wrong on that. That is something that you are incorrect about. And I think you can...
How so?
That first story about the turning kids queer, you're wrong about that. That's not what that article said.
How so?
So I have an advantage here, that I have So since I do have I do have academic tools. Let's see, I'm pulling it up right now. So I do have access to full texts. So correct me if you're wrong, but you got that information from a site called campusreform.org.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a very conservative campus website. So if I get something from Huffington Post, and it's especially if it says something that I already agree with it, I'm definitely go checking primary sources, because we can't just assume what that says. And in this case, that article from Campus Reform, and then you in your video got it really wrong. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the abstract, from the introduction of the article. So,
well, I just want to say I had read what it links to is what he had to say. It costs $50 to buy it. I can't afford that, but I did read the actual thing, just the summary that they had of it.
So the abstract of the article. So I'm going to
yeah.
So again, that's not your fault. If all you like, I wouldn't pay $15 for this. I'm just lucky that
50.
50 to 50.
Yeah.
No, fuck that.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna make.
So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
dude, I'm gonna be in college for as long as I can. If I'm gonna try to make sure that all my login stuff lasts as long as possible, because I get to actually go in there and do it. So if you can't get to the full text of an article, I really wouldn't be making super broad claims about it. So I'm going to give you a couple of things from it, because I think you're acting in good faith. And I think that if you knew what this article actually said, you wouldn't be saying the things you would. So I'm trying to come at you not as an attack. So the start of the article says, I playfully, perhaps provocatively, ask how art education can turn out queer. Can help kids turn out queer. So they're intentionally doing that to like, hey, this is playful, this is provocative. So kind of something that you might agree with. So to do this, I must first contextualize what queer as a theory is and does before attending to the history of queer scholarship in art education. Some more definitions of queer. Please tell me that it highlighted everything. Okay. Queerness, according to Richard Ford, is an ideological commitment, a decision to live outside some social norm or another. As children grow, schools have had to and will continue to deal with queer kids when they come out, in large part of new legal and policy prescriptions. Gay kids come out more and more in a climate that supports anti-discrimination policies and other emerging legal mechanisms. Such mechanisms have normalized the presence of queer individuals. That's where that policy and that politics in real life come into. And this is the big one. If one is born straight or gay, one must decide to become queer. So queer, as this article has defines it, just means living outside this, the norm. This could refer to a straight cisgender dude who's really supportive of all of his gay friends and who loves watching drag because it's fun to watch. And I'm talking drag in the kid-appropriate sense, just like Drag Queen Story Hour. So this article was not fairly represented by Campus Reform, and then we played Telephone, and I don't think it was fairly represented by you.
I mean, that may be. I don't know, though. So, correct me if I'm trying to find these exact words, but at least in the summary of it, it talks about heteronormative realities, gay art. They should have attention on gay artists and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily, having not read it, I can only say what I can say. But I don't quite agree with, from what I've heard, that queer is totally divorced from LGBT.
As this is defined, it just means outside the norm. So it's just, yes, it's important for queer education. I'm using queer in the umbrella term. Yeah, it's important for queer kids. It would have been very important, very useful to me. But it's just as important for kids who aren't queer, or who aren't gay, or who aren't trans, because we live in a society. That was my Jordan Peterson impression. We do live in a society, and how everyone around you treats you is really, really important. So it's not just for the queer kids, it's for everyone they grow up with. And to have this be normalized to an extent where it's not it doesn't have to be everything. It just has to be there and just a part of life. We can't. So something that you said, again, if I ramble, stop me. Something that you said earlier is that we don't teach kids about the horribleness of, or I'm using loaded language, we don't teach kids about all the negative aspects of being gay. Well, if we just learn that gay is just a thing you are, then what they learn about being gay is just that's a thing you are. It doesn't have to lead into promiscuity. It doesn't have to lead into just getting on Grindr every day and banging two dudes at once, unless that's what you want.
But how will it not if nobody identifies ever that is whether kids or as an adult, if nobody ever identifies that that's unhealthy and that's a problem, how will it ever not lead to that if that's what the culture puts on a pedestal?
Do you think that we can teach that being gay is okay and that you don't have to act based on what your, down there parts dictate you do? Do you think we can teach that and also say that, hey, shooting up a half a gallon of Molly, right? It's probably a bad thing and you shouldn't do it every night? To shoot up a half gallon of Molly?
I mean, I would love if mainstream LGBT. I mean, I would love if some of the mainstream LGBT establishment would take that view. But, sorry, what?
Can you repeat that? You roboted really bad. Can you repeat that last part?
Oh, I mean, I would love if the mainstream LGBT establishment would take more that sort of view. But I think when I was growing up, it wasn't, clearly it wasn't as accepted back then. However, you really didn't need any, like, we managed to figure it out on our own. I don't think it should be something that they're shielded from, but I think when we're seeing that it does come with a clear ideological agenda that's being pushed on them, it does seem like indoctrination to me. And also, I think it gives validity. This is what I hate so much about what the LGBT community has been doing lately, is that I feel like they are giving validity to all of the talking points that have always been used historically against gay rights, where they would talk about the gay agenda and recruiting children, and all that was bullshit. It was never true. But I feel like they're giving validity to all of that. And I think that it will be more harmful for LGBT people in the long run. The Washington Post did an article saying that in the past few years, LGBT people have gone from triumph to backlash. And I kind of think that the totality of these things, maybe one or two aren't exactly what they think we are, but the totality of these things, I think, is very much backfiring and will work against LGBT people being accepted.
So I definitely needed this education when I was little. Again, 15 years old, thought gay people wore pink nail polish, and that's how you knew. I definitely needed that education when I was little. I definitely needed to know at some point that it was okay to be gay. I had never heard that in my life until I was in my late teens. That's because, again, a lot of people don't grow up in New York and big cities. A lot of gay kids, I mean, you don't get to pick where you grow up. A lot of us grow up in Eastern Kentucky or rural Alabama or a trailer out in Nevada. We don't grow up in the same kind of environment that you did. And if you can imagine how homophobic it was in New York.
I mean, it wasn't much better here back then, but
how much?
But I don't. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think they should. Well, what's that?
It's like how much you want to bet that in New York City or wherever you grow up. Again, don't tell anything you don't want to say. Was comparable to Eastern Kentucky. I grew up in a literal trailer.
It's comparable, but it was. No, I'm not saying it was comparable, but, it was very unheard of back then. The first guy I ever had anything with was the first gay person my age I had ever met, and I was 18. So it was very unheard of back then. And I don't think that it should still be taboo in the same way. But I don't know, for example, do you think that it's okay to be reading books to kids called Whiteness and Other Horrible Things? And Elsa Has 7 Daddies?
Whiteness and Other Horrible Things book. Or Terrible Things book.
What's that? Title, I think, is slightly different than that.
First children's book to raise. I'd have to see the book. I'm trying to look it up right now. If we don't want to spend too much time on this, don't worry.
But just the title is very ideological, very political, very loaded. I think very negative.
Well, we'd have to see it.
And also, I think you have instances. There was a school in New York where they were taught about all of this stuff, and 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and about transgender and all of this shit. And they said the kids ran home crying, like girls thinking, I'm going to turn into a boy. So I just think a lot of it is unnecessary and not age appropriate.
So just because you can find a few instances of it being done poorly doesn't mean it shouldn't be done at all. And we can trade anecdotes back and forth based on like how we grow up. And that's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah,
let's talk about broad policy positions. You can definitely easily find instances of something going poorly or a well-intentioned strategy just being very poorly implemented. Just like I can find instances of extremely transphobic teachers demanding to see a kid's genitals in the bathroom. So that doesn't really get us anywhere. I think we should talk about what is right generally in a perfect world if it were implemented. Talking about trans issues to kids, I don't think is inappropriate, because again, the literature says that we develop a sense of what gender is by the time we're 2 or 3. And because of that, it's not a bad time to say that, hey, whatever you're feeling right now is okay. If you are born a girl, assigned female at birth, but you are really rambunctious and you or have all these feelings that make you feel more like a boy, that's fine. You may or may not be trans. You might just be a tomboy, and that's great. And you continue to listen to the kid. Likewise.
But I don't think, and this, but I don't think that that's what's being done. You either are or you're not. I think, first of all, I think gay is a little bit different than being transgender. Gender dysphoria is a dilapidating illness, and I think, well, this will lead into the next thing we're saying, but I think it needs to be taken more seriously, especially when it comes to children. And there are a lot of instances where if a child who thinks they're transgender gets therapy for it and it's questioned that they might not be, the clinic gets shut down or something. So I don't think, and also sorry, not to go on a trail with that, but one thing, I'm sort of hesitant to bring this up because, like you said, it's an anecdote. However, when it comes to drag queen story time, there have been multiple instances where the drag queen speaking there was like a convicted pedophile. And no, I'm of course not saying that they all are or anything like that. Most aren't. However, I do think that this speaks to an issue that people have that relates to the bathroom issue and the locker room issue, that because of this culture, once you say LGBT, conversation over. No questions can be asked. So if they cannot simply do a background check to make sure that somebody associating with toddlers and young children is not a predator, how can they do how can we trust these people to have the welfare of children's bodies and lives in their hands?
How'd you know that they were pedophiles?
It's been in the news.
Been in the news, so someone went and checked and found out. Sounds like they
so why couldn't the people hiring them do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say what my point was with that. But my point is how that relates to some of the other issues is I think that's a problem people have, that nobody thinks, some nut jobs do, but most sane people don't think trans people are predators or going to attack someone in the bathroom or anything. But an issue that people have with this is that once you put LGBT on that, you can't ask any questions. You can't say anything. And it's about people who will use that label of LGBT.
I don't think that you'll find anybody on the left that's going to say that, yeah, a pedophile should be teaching the kids. I don't think anybody will defend that. Our issue there is not with the drag queen or not with the LGBT part, it's with the pedophile part. So we can have an issue with that and have it recognized that it's completely separate. It doesn't matter who was doing it. That's the part we have an issue with. And one of the reasons and it does go both ways, because I'm sure there are some hyper politically correct people out there who will say that if it's LGBT, you can't criticize it whatsoever. Again, I don't see that as a generality on the left in my circles. And again, that's anecdotes, but I'm trying not to put a ton of people into boxes here. While at the same time, I think in education that would say that, being LGBT is normal. It is okay for kids to learn about LGBT issues. Having that be a normal thing would make it easier for us to criticize, because this isn't a new thing. It's not a weird thing. It's not something coming out of nowhere. It's not just a culture of degeneracy and victimhood. It's just a normal thing. And therefore, since it's normal, you can criticize it. So I think my approach would actually be more helpful in saying that, this person's gay, but they're also a complete and total shitwad. Doesn't matter if they're gay. Or this trans woman is just an asshole. Or their policies are horrendous, or stuff like that. If we educate kids that this is just a normal thing that happens to some people, it makes it easier to criticize in the long run.
I just don't agree that that's being done. Like, for example, in Canada, there was a researcher who had a clinic in terms of children being transgender. And this is somebody who was actually very pro-trans, who had overseen young people transitioning and was very positive towards that. However, he gave therapy where he wanted to really find out and really make sure that they have gender dysphoria and make sure that that's really what's going on. This was in Canada, so yes. Well, this was in Canada, so shortly after they banned conversion therapy. they called what he was doing conversion therapy, and so the clinic got shut down. So I don't think it is that easy to ask questions or to disagree.
So
once
some of
that label of LGBT is on something.
So, and this goes both directions, because some of Zucker's treatments involved parents setting limits on gender inappropriate behavior and psychotropic drugs. Those were some of the treatments. Now, that's not all of them, but they definitely included that. That doesn't sound super, like if a kid wants to act a certain way and it's not harming them, I don't know what you would describe saying, hey, you're a boy, stop acting like a girl. Stop playing with dresses. Stop doing gender inappropriate behavior. I don't know how to classify that other than a form of trying to get them to stop doing that action. It maybe calling it conversion therapy is really harsh. But
I don't agree that it is, though, because being gay isn't. It's just a different animal. Whereas gender dysphoria is a dilapidating illness, and I think if there's any chance that the child doesn't truly have it, but it just inherently is, like, just the very nature of it. It's like, it's not, I can't imagine something that would be harder than that.
So we have
than being born in the wrong body and needing hormones and surgery. Like, it's a very, like, any trans person will say that it is a very painful, difficult thing to go through, regardless of if you're accepted.
And if you are accepted, you have way better outcomes. And there actually are studies on this. So kids who grow up in really supportive environments don't get that same kind of gender dysphoria. Now, they're still quote unquote transitioned, but they don't have that extreme level of gender dysphoria because the mental illness comes from people telling you, or this general sense you get in society, that you are not, that the body that you have is not the right one for what's in your mind. Or something vice versa. The mind you have is not the right one for your body, and you're acting incorrectly. A lot of gender dysphoria comes from that. Now, that's a very broad stroke. Again, that's not everybody, but the researchers said that kids who grow up in supportive environments where their gender identity is confirmed and not pushed. If a kid tells you they want to do something and you say, yeah, that's fine, as long as you're not getting hurt, that's not pushing anything on them. It's coming from the kid. The researchers show that they do a lot better. In fact, they do comparable to their cisgender peers. These are children. Now, children do not get any form of surgery or drugs until they are in their late teens. Or not, so not late teens, until they are well into their...
Wait, I'm sorry, you cut out. Say that again?
So children do not get any form of drugs or hormone therapy until they are into puberty. So nothing you're doing to this kid is going to harm them biologically.
I don't know that that's true. Which, by the way, I should just say, this is our next topic, children transitioning. I think we are here. But
we kind of organically got to kids transitioning.
There was just a story coming.
So we kind of organically got to transitioning for kids.
Yeah, true. No, I mean, of course, I think that's just common sense that if people are accepting of you, you'll do better. However, I don't agree. I'm not sure that that's necessarily true, because there was just a story in Canada. The DHS has had like 20 of their workers quit, who said that things are being, medications are being pushed on very vulnerable young children, medications that are not reversible, and are given to kids who are just gay, probably, that aren't necessarily transgender. The age had been, I think, 12 or 13, and that was lowered to 8, and it's reportedly being done on kids who are as young as 3.
I'm going to need to see some proof on that, because why would you give any sort of hormone therapy to a 3-year-old? That is not in the ethics that I've seen.
Exactly.
That's not APA guidelines, either APA, American Psychology, or American Psychiatric Association. That's not World Health Organization. So if there are clinics who are doing that, they're doing it illegally. And again, that's
the DHS in Canada.
I need to see this. I hope you won't.
I mean, if you just look up the DHS in Canada, but I'll give you another example, though. Are you familiar with Jazz Jennings?
Yes.
So she's a young transgender girl, and she seems to me like...
I'm thinking
what's
Desmond is amazing. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Desmond. I'm sorry.
Oh God. No, Jazz Jennings is a transgender girl. She has a show, and she seems, by all accounts, to be somebody who is legitimately transgender. So she was put on all of the hormones and puberty blockers when she was a very young child. And because of that, now she's, I think, like 18 or something, and wanted to get bottom surgery. And because her body was so underdeveloped, she wasn't able to. There were massive complications in it. What they had to end up doing was removing parts of her intestine and sew them to her genitals. So it is being done to children. And the point of that is that even if my main concern with it is that it will be done to a child who doesn't turn out to be trans. But that shows that even if that child does turn out to be transgender, having all of these medications and medically transitioning so early is still negative.
I could be wrong, but isn't Jazz Jenny, didn't she have to go to an entirely different country to get that surgery? Am I thinking of someone else? Of.
But if she did, it's because she was put on medication at such a young age. I believe when she was like 7 or 8. Maybe it might be, I don't know, around that.
Yeah, so I'm on a Women's Health Mag. So she's preparing for gender confirmation surgery, but it was more complicated because she hadn't gone through puberty because of hormone blockers, so she didn't have enough penile skin to create a vagina. Okay, so those are some of the, yeah. But it went well. Surgery went well. It's better than what I'd hoped for.
I mean, if you consider that going well.
I mean, it doesn't matter what I consider. She said it went well. It's better than what I hoped for, according to her doctor. And
I mean, after massive complications, having to get her intestine taken out, and
yeah,
I don't think that's well.
It seems to have worked out.
The thing is, this is like the best case scenario, and this is the best case scenario. This is
so if you don't want to judge,
turn out to be trans. At minimum, it's massive complications.
Okay, if you don't.
Sorry, what'd you say?
If you don't want to judge this because it turned out really well, it's the best case scenario, you also can't judge them by the worst case scenarios. Since neither one of us are doctors, we have to go by medical consensus. And as far as I know, children are not given any sort of puberty blockers or hormone therapy whatsoever. The ethics that I'm familiar with say that they are in a certain stage of puberty. I'll bring it up here. That we don't give hormone suppressors until then. That way they can, and they only give them with. They are very, very clear about the risks. For one, if you've been trans for a long time and that's a consistent identity that you've had since you were little, by the time you're getting to your teenager, the research says that you're probably going to stay that way for a long period of time, or that's probably just that's what you are. That desistance rate doesn't apply to them.
I mean, that's kind of in dispute. Like sorry.
I mean, it can be in dispute. We can still have conversations over, but we also have to be honest about what the actual medical policies are. If some clinic somewhere does something that goes out of medical guidelines, then that's on them. They got to be stopped. I want the medical consensus that I'm aware of is pro kids transitioning with informed consent, which is exactly what I'm pushing for.
There was just a story out of New Haven with a 4-year-old having their name legally changed, transitioning. So I would consider that may not be medication, but I would consider that the same thing. It's an official transition. So, do you agree with that?
No. That's enormously different than puberty blockers or hormone therapy or something like that. There's no risk whatsoever.
No, it is. But it's the same thing.
It's not. Oh, it's very different.
What's that?
So my name's not Justin.
No, of course it's different.
My name's Austin. Call me Austin now. It's just legally changed to Austin.
Okay, I'll call you Austin.
All right, so can we see a difference there between what just happened and drugs?
Of course, I'm not saying it's the same thing as drugs, but my point is
that
it is a legal transition for a 4-year-old.
Sure.
So do you think a 4-year-old is capable of making that determination for the rest of their lives?
For the rest of their lives? Is that how name changes work? You get one, that's it?
No, but it's an official transition. There's been legal paperwork done, and we've seen in cases that it is happening.
What is the risk
that they are given medication?
What is the risk of having their name changed?
It's what it represents. It's that the child is living fully, officially, legally as the opposite gender, and that it's a 4-year-old child.
Yeah. And the research says that
you see nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not, because the research has confirmed, and this is still new. And if research comes out that refutes this, I will listen to it because I care very much about getting my facts right. But all the research I've said that if they are supported, Their outcomes are far better. Their mental health outcomes are far better. Their risk of suicide and self-harm drops significantly, to the point where if they're supported from the get-go and they get that legal name change and they go into kindergarten and their teacher calls them by their real name, they're going to do really, really, really well. Versus the alternative.
Why does it have to be a legal thing?
Why does it have to be legal? Why not?
But that's my point, is that it is making them officially a trans person of the opposite gender. And how can we don't allow 4-year-olds to drink. We don't allow 4-year-olds.
Is there something biological about the name Jessica?
Not biological, but it is how we culturally we view it as a female name.
Yeah, but Jessica could be a boy's name if we all agreed on it. There's no reason, there's no biological basis for why it has to be a gendered name.
But we don't.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. But what is I'm really struggling to see the harm here, where if someone who's assigned male at birth gets their name changed to Jessica and they go into kindergarten and they're Jessica, I'm really struggling to see what the problem here is.
The problem is, how can a 4-year-old know? Did you know you were gay when you were 4?
I knew I was a boy.
I didn't know what gay was.
Well, that's between sexuality and gender. I knew I was a boy when I was 4 because, again, the literature says we find out around 2 to 4 years old, 3-ish. We kind of know what boys.
The thing is, though, there's like you have your studies, I have my studies. Like it's very in dispute, and I don't think that we should be experimenting on young children for something that is not settled science. There's been a huge increase in this over the past couple of years. We don't really know the long-term effects. There have been studies, some of them are flawed, some of them they say different things, but when it is so in dispute and it is not settled science and we don't know the long-term effects of this, we shouldn't be involving children in it. We should allow, I think the most important question that needs to be asked here is in relation to the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. And I think we need to ask, what does the minimal amount of harm? Is there greater harm in a child expressing themselves however they would like, calling themselves whatever they would like, and waiting until they're older for anything legal, medical, official? Or is there a greater harm in a kid legally, medically transitioning and then turning out to not be transgender?
So there's an article from the AMA Journal of Ethics. So the American, I think I want to double check here, American Medical Association. Just AMA, come on. All right, I want to assume it's American. Let's see, AMA. Fuck, dude, come on, Journal of Ethics. Well, I look like I know what I'm talking about here. Let's go home. I want to make sure I'm getting the correct sources. Cool, AMA again. Not going to tell me what AMA stands for.
Medical health.
But there's a.
I mean, I
on here about Journal of Ethics for suppression of puberty in transgender people, and part of that Hippocratic Oath is if giving him this treatment through rigorous psychological consultations, through therapy, through longitudinal, like keeping an eye on a transgender kid, if that therapy is going to decrease their risk of suicide and improve their mental health, it is your Hippocratic duty. It's part of your Hippocratic Oath to do what you think is best for this kid, and that can include.
But I don't think that they.
That can include legally changing their name.
But I don't think that it's.
It'll never be settled, and it'll never be.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I don't think that. But I don't think it is anywhere near that, because since there's been such an increase in it, we don't know the long-term effects. We don't know what's going to happen with these kids when they get a lot older. And I do think that we've seen instances where it is being pushed, where doctors are afraid. That's if you look at the story from Canada with the DHS, that's what they've said, that nobody will ask questions, that they will not vet these kids. They will not make sure of anything. And many of these, what's that?
Who's they? Who's saying that?
At the DHS in Canada, because they have had multiple workers quit over time, and some of them had said that the only reason they had been staying in their jobs was to protect children who were getting this pushed on them, who weren't genuinely transgender. And what I was going to say is that I don't think that the only reason that there is such a high suicide rate in trans people is only because they're not accepted. That can contribute to it, I'm sure, in many. What's that?
That's a big one. All the reason I did a shit.
It's one reason of like.
It's a big one though. There's nothing inherent about.
But if it's only because of.
Well, why did someone commit suicide?
So you think that's the main reason?
There's going to be a multitude of factors, but all the research I did, and I have 20 academic
Mental-
sources in my previous video, if they are in a better environment, they're more accepted, their suicide rate drops significantly towards, it trends towards comparable cisgender peered when controlled for all of their factors. And in a couple of the studies I said, and again, just one or two studies doesn't prove anything, but it is possible that when controlled for all other factors, including mental illnesses like depression and things like that, when controlled for everything else, someone with gender dysphoria or someone who has transitioned can have comparable health outcomes to someone who is cisgendered. So it seems like that's a big argument.
So you would, but then why is it that that isn't applied to anything else? If you think that oppression is the main cause or not being accepted as the main cause, why is it that men have a higher suicide rate than women and white people have a higher suicide rate than black people? It just doesn't apply to any other group that is.
Do you want a real answer to the men versus women one? I actually know a little bit about that. Who do you think attempts suicide more, men or women?
Women attempt it more, men do it more.
So, but why?
What's that?
Yeah, way more. I think they're close to 60 to 70% of suicide attempts. Again, if I'm wrong on that, I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
But why are men the bulk of suicide completions? Instrumentation.
Why is that?
They're more likely to choose something like a gun.
Sorry, what?
So men are more likely to choose something like a gun to be their instrument. And if you want me to stop talking about this, tell me, okay? I've no problem whatsoever. If you want me to stop talking about this, we will.
But what is that? How does that relate, though, to societal oppression causing suicide? What does it matter if they use a gun?
So it sounds like you were trying to make the case that since men are less oppressed by society, we should see lower suicide rates in men, but while we actually see higher suicide rates in men. I'm telling you that the reason their suicide rates are higher is because of their instrument of choice. They're more likely to choose a gun, and there's a lot less time to rethink things or to call for help or to have someone come in and catch you. Women attempt suicide.
Well, then why do whites have a higher? Well, then why do whites have a higher suicide rate than blacks?
There's a huge multitude of factors. It's enormously complicated. Oppression, even if we narrow it down to oppression, we can't say that oppression is the same for everybody, for every reason, for every minority group. It's an enormously complex topic. I'm just saying in this one specific issue, when they are in supportive environments, the research says they tend to do better. I'm very comfortable.
I agree with you. Like, I think that's just common sense that they would do better, but I don't think that that's the only reason why there's a suicide rate. I think it's just inherent with the illness. I forget what our point was initially with this.
Well, we both kind of.
But no, going back to what I said is that I think children should be allowed to express themselves however they'd like, do whatever they would like, but I don't think it should be encouraging them. I think that transitioning or living, whether it's living as the opposite gender or medically, I think should be an absolute last resort when we are 100% sure that it is right for that child and that they are genuinely transgender.
So when we're talking about medical treatments, and if we're talking about being trans, they can have higher mental health problems. When we're looking at risks, what is the risk? What is the medical risk of someone assigned male at birth wearing a dress to school? What's the medical risk there? It's zero.
The medical risk there isn't one, but that's what. Well, no, but that's what I said is that they should be free to do that if that's who they are. But that's very different than transitioning, than living than legally calling yourself something, medically transitioning. Those are two very different things.
Well, yeah, legally and medically transitioning are two different things, but you kind of conflated the legal definition with the medical one. You said that someone who legally changes their name at 4 years old, that somehow that's a bad thing, akin to hormone replacement therapy or drugs or even surgery. You kind of
no, I don't think it's akin. I just think it is making it official. Whereas a boy could wear a dress to school and then 2 days later decide, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. When you change your name legally, you have made that official. So what I said is I think that they should express themselves however they want and do whatever they want, but that they should only be officially transgender, transitioning in any way when it is for sure 100% and a last case scenario. But I think there's too much uncertainty around this. I feel like I actually have the more open-minded position, which is wait and see. because I cannot imagine the harm that would be caused to a kid who is told that they're transgender and is living as transgender, and then they turn out to not be. Like I say this
transgender, they tell
personally
you.
because I feel like, what's that?
Okay, you don't tell a kid that they're transgender; they tell you. That's it. So
I know, but that doesn't
this notion
mean
that's being pushed
they
on by
are.
doctors and
The kid could
parents,
say
I
they're a
just don't
dog.
think is a thing that happens broadly. I think, in fact,
I disagree. I disagree.
I
I
think
think
it's way more common the other direction. So some of the research I did, the sissy boy syndrome. This is one of those 11 studies you sent me. Yeah, look, it's a real actual book that I bought I got from my library. All of those kids, their parents tried to stop them from their effeminate behaviors. Just about all of them. It was.
Yeah, and I don't think that's good either.
So,
but I think that there's actually less risk in that than officially transitioning, because they can get away from that and live their own life. Not that that's a desirable outcome, but I think it's being taken way too lightly. Not enough questions are being asked. And when you have accredited places that are, it seems like there is a fear to ask questions about this, to study it, to even question that a child might not be transgender. And another concern that I have is that it seems like
to transgender activists that easily, especially if they are take their Hippocratic oath seriously. I don't think, well, this probably won't work on this kid, or I have no idea if it's going to help or not, but they'll call me a transphobe if I don't. I don't think that happens. I think they're doing it because the research and all the medical knowledge that they have says, if I'm correct in my diagnosis is to the best of my ability, and I come to this decision, this is going to help that kid the most. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen. I don't think a trans activist. I don't know if I would consider myself one. I just don't know what activist means. But if a kid, yeah. So this is just so if a kid went into a gender clinic and said for a diagnosis or just to get evaluated and said, and the clinician said, well, no, you just have an effeminate boy. He's probably going to still be a boy. If he wants to wear dresses, let him and stuff. If he wants to go by she, let him. But let's just wait and see. He probably doesn't have genders for you. I'm not going to yell at them for that. That seems like a responsible clinician thing to say.
But that's you. I do think that you underestimate just how ideological things have become. Like a good example of that, have you heard about the hoax that took place with Peter Boghossian and universities, where they published all of these very ideological leftist studies? One of them, they reprinted Mein Kampf and just added in like this social justice language. And these studies won awards and were all accepted. So I don't know. I think you underestimate how afraid people are. Like for me, I lost my job because of the controversy with the walk away event. And I really don't think I'm not like, I don't think I say things that are so terrible, but I do think you underestimate just how much of a mob mentality fear culture we're living in right now, especially on this issue.
No, so that first one, that was a problem with pay-for-play journals, that was in large part. So even quote unquote peer reviewed, these are really, so a lot of academic journals are there to make money, and they will take anything. There was literally, I love this story. There was literally a paper that was sent to a publisher that said, stop fucking calling me. Stop fucking calling me. Stop fucking calling me. All the way down, 5 pages. They had a graph. It said, stop fucking calling me. There was a pie chart. It said, stop fucking calling me in the middle. And they published it because he paid to have it published. So that's a big problem in the academic community. Now, there's ways around it. If anybody's curious, you can look up at a journal's impact factor. That's one way to do it. Just Google journal title impact factor. It tells you how many times that various articles from the journal are cited in other journals, and it's a pretty good method of reliability. If it's 0, don't fucking trust that journal. So yeah, that's a big problem in the academic community, but there are ways to get around it. And that second one you said, the ideological components. Well, yeah, we want to be. What is the ideology that you think is being pushed on these doctors?
I think it is a modern leftist ideology, intersectionality, and the sort. I'm not going to be all Jordan Peterson and say postmodernism.
You're going to say cultural Marxism?
Wait, shit, I can't. My thing froze. Sorry, one sec. Hopefully this will unfreeze.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
You see me? I'm moving.
Oh, okay. My okay, there it is. Sorry. I keep saying like not responding. Sorry. Go on.
You were talking. I think it's your turn. You remember what you were talking
What
about?
did I say? What did
Modern
I say?
leftism.
Yeah, no, it seems like it is a modern leftist ideology.
Or what, like economic policies, or when you say left, that's really, really broad. So let's try to get it to this specific.
Sorry, you cut out.
So let's try to get that to this specific instance. What about leftist ideology is pushing doctors to do what? What ideology is being pushed on doctors?
That's sort of the common wisdom now that anything goes, you have to accept everything, and this intersectional ideology, like I don't see anyone really questioning it. And there are, a million anecdotes and instances of people losing their jobs, people who stand against this. I don't see there being enough criticism, enough questioning of it.
So I will tell you that medicine, academia, and politics are way different beasts. So in the medical field, intersectionality and stuff like that, they're frameworks, but that's not how they base their decisions. Okay, the number one thing in medicine is I want to do the best I can for my patients. And yes, politics are going to play some part in that. Ideology is going to play some part in that, especially when you decide what is and is not a mental illness. I'm sure, as you know, homosexuality was a mental illness for a long time, based on perceptions, based on ideology. Gender identity disorder, as it used to be called, that was a mental disorder for a long time. So yes, they can do it into it, but at the end of the day, even with homosexuality, the intent was still to do the best you could for your patients. So a doctor, the medical community at large, doesn't give a shit if there's certain politicians or activists pushing them on stuff. If it's not right for their patients, they're not going to do it. Now, they might open them up to other things, like, for example, being open that's transitioning a kid, at least socially, and then maybe putting them on puberty blockers when they get into puberty. That might open them up to that idea. And if the research says it's going to work, and your medical knowledge says that, yeah, the risks do not outweigh the potential rewards of this, that's what a good doctor is going to do. So I don't think it's fair to say that they're only doing this because outside activists are pushing it on them.
I think that they are afraid not to. I think that they know the consequences that we've seen time and time again from so many different people who question it. I do think that there's a real fear. I mean, I get so many emails from people saying they can't say anything at their school. They get thrown out. They lost their job. There's a real fear to stand against this today.
You're roboting kind of bad on my end, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying. You're roboting kind of bad.
Yeah, sorry. This is all
that's fine.
Crazy. I don't know if I
think I got the gist of what you were saying, though. Well, what are they trying to say? That's a big issue. Like on campus, so I did my undergrad for 4 years.
Sorry, what?
Now I'm a year into my master's program, and I've been close to campus ever since. I taught at not a college, but I taught at an academy for a couple of years. It's my anecdotes, like it's just my story. Take it with a massive grain of salt, but I haven't seen that stuff. Granted, I was in kinesiology, so there's not a whole lot of room for a ton of social stuff when you're talking about deadlifts, but I didn't see that kind of thing.
I mean, maybe not in your specific experience, but I think it's what you mentioned earlier about the politicization, if I could pronounce that, of LGBT, that there's just no asking questions. But
there's no asking.
Maybe we should move on to the next topic. We've ranted about this a while.
Sure. Any final points?
Is there anything more you want to say on this?
You're frozen on my end.
Sorry, what?
Oh, you're good.
Sorry, what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing.
Okay, any last points on, I think we're on children transitioning.
Sorry, what? God damn it, this is all freezing. Shit, we were doing well for a while.
You're still good. Any last points on children transitioning? Did that one get through?
All right, I don't know if I close this, I don't know if it all can get back in. Did I just leave it?
You can refresh it.
It keeps like not
responding. Can you hear me right now?
Shit. Yeah, okay, I'll I'll let you know. Is there anything more you wanted to say about this, or should we move on?
So, last thing I'll say, I'll plug my channel, SJW Debates. I did a video called Trans Activists versus Facts.
Do it.
Trans Activists versus Facts. It's a facetious title. I play a character in it. You do make an appearance in it, but if you want to have criticize me on that, that's fine. Especially since I'm plugging it. But I have 20 academic sources in that. I talk a lot about. I talk a lot about the science that's actual transphobes use. I'm not saying you're one, but I talk a lot about the science that actual like people who do not like trans people will use. And I did 20 studies on that. I've read 2 books.
I don't agree that the people you reference are transphobes, even though and they say things that I don't agree with that aren't in line with my views of trans people. There are things that I wish that they would change their minds about, but I don't think that they are transphobic.
I think I got the gist of what you said. You cut out a lot, so I apologize. Again, try to stop.
Should I close this window and reopen it? Will I get back in if I do?
I'm not sure. I promise I'm just as bad at this as you are.
God damn it! We were doing so well with the video up until now. Shit.
You're okay on my end, mostly.
Damn.
You're mostly okay on my end. I'm still live on over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So again, I don't really care, and I probably shouldn't have said transphobes because I promised myself I wouldn't do that. What I cared most about is misrepresentations of research that can be used to harm trans people. So Ben Shapiro, for a long time, I think he eventually corrected himself, but he used that Williams study, the Williams study from UCLA. He got every single thing wrong about that. And I don't think Ben Shapiro is stupid. And he says he can read studies. So I don't think I'm being unreasonable to say he just straight up lied about it. Every claim he made when he was talking to Joe Rogan, and granted, that was a while back, about that study, a particular study, was demonstrably wrong. This is the exact opposite of what the study said. So I have a big problem with that. Either direction, but especially if it's going to harm people that I care about.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Just a point I wanted to make, going back to what I was saying before, is a concern that I have is that it seems radical gender ideology just keeps going further and further and further, and it seems that there is never an end point to it. Like, it seems like the thing that they're pushing now that I keep hearing is saying that there is no such thing as biological sex. So it's like, where does it end?
Well, who is they that you're talking about? Like, I'm pretty far left. I'm super.
Doctors saying that. Obviously, this is not. What's
so
that?
It really depends on what you're talking about with that. So I'm super far left. My handle is SJW Debates. That's not ironic. But no, I think there's such a thing as biological sex when you're talking about certain things. Like if you're talking about gametes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wait, but you said that there is biological sex. So if they're pushing that now, there's no biological sex, because we have common ground on this. So you have shown now that there is a line you are willing to draw of how much radical gender ideology you will accept. So is that hate speech? Are you now transphobic?
No, of course not. So when I say there's biological sex, I'm saying that's a thing that exists. And especially if you're talking about, if you're studying biology, that's something that you need to know. And you can define it by gametes. However,
of course there's biological sex.
Yeah, however, though, if you're talking outside of that, like if you're talking from a social sense, we can't see gametes, we can't see chromosomes, and unless your life is just a lot cooler than mine, you can't see genitals with most people you meet. So that's not something that we can base our interactions with from person to person. And so in that sense, sex can be a spectrum. Not just gender, but sex itself. And I'm talking phenotypes.
Yeah, but shit. Sorry, says shit. Sorry, this is cutting out. Can you guys see here?
How much of that did you hear?
Some of it.
Oh, it was the most amazing thing you've ever heard.
But yeah, no, what I'm saying is, there are. What's that?
I would say it was the most amazing thing you've ever heard in your life if you didn't hear it. Okay? You missed.
No, but I'm saying there are credited doctors saying their exact words, there is no such thing as biological sex. Teen Vogue just did a thing, which is obviously not highly intellectual source, but it is something that gets put in our culture, and it seems like that is the next cultural thing, that we're going to be told there's no such thing as biological sex. And if you agree with me that there of course is, what's to stop that from being called hate speech?
Let's see what they actually say. I'm pulling up Teen Vogue now. Oh, Breitbart. That's not a great first.
It was a video,
That's
but
not a great first source.
Or there was a doctor in Canada, or I don't know, some sort of professor who said there's no biological sex. So that is something that's being pushed.
It's so there could be. I can't tell you what they say because I'm not familiar with those. What I can tell you is my personal experience based on what I know of the research and my, granted, slightly limited background in biology. Biomechanics is its own thing. We add numbers to deadlifts, like I said earlier, but it depends on what you're talking about. So, for example, do you think that there's a male and female brain?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is where we're going to get into. So the science says.
I think it's correct to say that there is. That females have, I believe, more gray matter.
It's correct to say that if you were to take a representative sample of men, let's say 1,000 male brains and 1,000 female brains, and you average them together, there would be differences. So what you can't say is that you can take a brain and know what gender it is or know what sex it is. That's what they're saying. There's no.
Okay.
So there are statistical differences, but you can't say that one is distinctly one or the other from a biological sense, because there are trends. And
I think that's true.
So when you say that there's a male and female brain, that's actually inaccurate.
No, I didn't say that there's a male and female brain, but there are differences between the male and female brain.
Average differences. And those average differences have nothing.
Yeah. We can only really
whatever average differences there are, they don't affect mine. So if mine falls outside of that average, it really doesn't matter to me because it's not going to affect.
Maybe as an individual, but I feel like it's the same as saying men are typically taller than women.
Sure.
Men typically have more upper body strength than women. It's like that may not be true for every single person, but it is on average the norm.
But can you say that a 5'11" person is male or female?
Sorry, what?
But if you take that height analogy, you have a 5'11" person. Are they male or female?
There's no knowing.
Right. So that's that kind of spectrum that we're talking about. You could say that they're more likely to be male just based on averages, but if it turns out they're a female, that's fine. It's slightly less common, but
but that's a pretty average. Like, I don't know if they're. I'd say if they're like 6'4", there's probably like a 90% chance that they are male.
Probably, but if they're not any less female. So that's the problem.
Yeah. Anyway, though, I think we've ranted about this for a while. Should we move on to the next topic? Unless there's anything more you want to say.
What was the actual topic that we went over? Were we still on children transitioning? And
what's that?
We still on children transitioning? How did we get here?
Unless there's anything you want to add, maybe let's.
So I will say, last thing on this, gender is obviously a spectrum. Sex, I think, depending on how you define it, especially if you're looking at phenotypes. Phenotypes is how your genes interact with the environment. That's also a spectrum. And so drawing distinct binaries is not only politically incorrect, it's just incorrect. Stop. So that's how I'll end on that. If you want to respond to that, I'm happy to talk about it more.
In terms of what would you say then?
Huh?
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that
you're
shit. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm going to look at the chat. Can you guys let me know if you can see me or hear me? I'm going to check the chat. I don't know if I should close this or not.
Can they see me on your chat? Or on your stream? I'm not on your stream.
Yeah, it's just very choppy. Someone let me know in the chat if you can see me or hear me. No one's letting me know. Okay, good. They said they can hear it.
Yeah,
So.
remember.
Yeah. Anyway, just bear with us. Sorry, it's my computer is really fucking up horribly.
Because remember, there's a
What's
delay.
that?
So you'll ask a question, they won't hear it for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. What was I gonna respond to? Yeah, I forget what I was gonna say. Anyway, should we move on to the next topic?
Sure. You want to do one last topic and then take some questions?
Sure. What was the next one we were gonna discuss?
Last question. We can end on a really fun one: Democrats versus Republicans and LGBT rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun light one to end on.
I believe we're going to get into that and the gay culture in a minute, so maybe let's just do a second of that. I've talked a lot about that. I think the culture that's pushed by the gay community today, at least in big cities, places, New York, I have no clue what it's like, obviously, in somewhere like Kentucky, but I do think that's where the LGBT community is more centrally located, and what it speaks for the whole LGBT community is pretty toxic, pushes bad things. There's been this massive cultural shift of more acceptance for gay people, and as that's happening, gay men are still in crisis. STD rates are rising. Drug use is rampant, and nobody's talking about these things. It seems like there's no respect for relationships in the gay culture today. I think Grindr has warped people's minds. Half of them are on meth.
Gay people, or is there some sort of extra
and it seems to me, no disrespect. What's that?
Do you think that is unique to gay people?
Sorry, what did you say?
Do you think that there's some kind of common external variable that's affecting gay people and straight people alike?
I think it's the culture. I think that the dysfunction and the issues faced by gay people are the same as straight people, but I think the difference is in this culture, you're told that those are positive things.
Again, you're making these statements like you're told. First of all, who's me? Because I haven't been told that. And second of all, who are you told by?
It's the ethos of the gay community today. There's nobody that talks about these issues. You can't talk about these issues without being told it's hate speech.
No, so I've seen a lot of articles on left-wing.
It's a mentality that is just...
I've seen a lot of articles on left-wing sites that do talk about, HIV rates are rising in the gay community. I think I heard that. I know that's a thing because it hasn't been censored and we actually are allowed to talk about it. Because that's not politically incorrect to say. It's politically incorrect to say that it's because gays are just like promiscuous and they kind of deserve it. That's politically incorrect. But no, that's a problem. We should talk about it. I don't think any gay activist or LGBT activist or super far left person will say, no, you can't talk about the fact that HIV rates are rising in the gay community. Just like it's fine to talk about if STD rates are rising everywhere. One, why is that a thing?
I don't agree with that. I don't see any of them addressing it.
I told you. Let's see.
Why is what a thing?
Let's go. But you can. If my actual lefty friends are going to yell at me for doing this, but Huffington. I'm not doing this for.
Why they don't like that?
I generally don't read things that I know are on my side. HIV rates increase.
Yeah, same.
Because why?
Well, it's not just HIV. It's the fact of how many
Increasing
gay men
rates
are
of HIV
having
among
functional
LGBT.
relationships.
Yeah.
There's just no respect anymore.
Huffington Post. Increasing rates of HIV among LGBT Latinos are wake-up call to health advocates. So not only did they disparage LGBT, they also disparage Latinos. So here's a pretty left-wing publication talking about these issues.
I mean, I've also seen Huffington Post say that it's a microaggression to ask somebody what their HIV status is. So it goes both ways.
Looks like they're citing CDC numbers.
But the point is, if these...
It looks like they're citing CDC numbers.
I'm sorry, shit, you're cutting out.
Yeah. So it looks like they're citing CDC numbers. Here's the left.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Any LGBT-friendly publication are talking about problems in the gay community. And granted, that's just the first thing I Googled, but
I'm not saying that it's never discussed. I'm saying that they act as though homophobia is still the main issue for most gay people, and it's just not anymore. It's not the number one thing that affects us like the culture does. For example, I have a friend who's 19 who is like my little brother, and I see every day with him the pressure that he feels to conform to this culture, to just hook up with people, party, do drugs. And I don't, if these LGBT activists, if places like the LGBT Center aren't going to be teaching kids positive values and self-respect and healthy life choices, then why do they exist? And I don't see any instances.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that, but just tell me.
Sure, maybe there's an article here or there.
Let's see. So again, I didn't hear the first little part of that. Tell me if I'm phrasing it correctly based on what I did hear. That you have a friend who feels pressured to hook up with a lot of people, and that he's being pressured by the gay culture.
I think that's the pressure that most people feel.
I'm going to need to see some polling data or something on that, because in the anecdotes, don't take this. I
have a poll. Great. I mean, there was something. Yeah, anecdotes are fine, but there was. It's an informal study, but I can't stand Vox, but they actually did a thing about this of people using Grindr who are much less likely to have relationships. And think about the fact that there are most likely teenagers using Grindr today. And I think it has really warped people's minds. And I don't see any of the activists talking about any of these problems that exist within the gay community, because you would have to look at
it's enormously complex.
You'd have to lay some blame on us, on each other.
So I can't speak for the majority of activists. I can only speak for myself. But for one, if you're going to study people who are on Grindr, of course you're going to find people who are there to hook up. That's kind of what Grindr is there for. So that's not going to be a good representative sample of gay culture. And two,
the problem is that everybody has
it. The second thing I'll say is,
sorry,
if from a leftist perspective, here's mine. Sex is something that you should own. Consent is super important. And if you don't want to hook up with everybody, fuck anybody who says otherwise. If you don't want to hook up with people and you just want to find that one person, awesome, that's great on you. If you do want to hook up with lots of people, I want you to be as informed as possible and stay as safe as possible, but that's okay too. There's nothing morally wrong with that. Either option is fine. One's riskier, and I want you to be as informed as possible going into it, but neither one is bad. So this is just my opinion as a leftist whose name is SJW Debates, proudly wear that label. That's what I would think. So the people pressuring your friend to have sex with a lot of people, fuck those people. But at the same time, the person who says that the guy who responsibly does hook up with a lot of people is a slut, or in male, woman, whatever. If you hook up with people responsibly and you're being cool with them and being upfront with them, that person's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just my perspective as a leftist.
Of course, nobody's saying it's not. First of all, I'm no better than I'm like the fucking whore of. No. I'm just saying in general. I'm like the fucking whore of Babylon. So don't go by me. But the problem is that it's changed people's minds, and there's nowhere that LGBT activists are teaching any sort of moderation, any sort of respect for relationships. So many gay people, especially younger ones, feel like it is just what's expected of them as a gay person.
I've felt nothing but positivity from the fact that I'm married in a monogamous relationship with my husband, and I haven't seen.
Well, you're in Kentucky.
That's a bad thing, and I'm on a lot of. I don't read a ton of like. So no, when you're saying that it's being pushed, this is what's happening. I need some more specifics. Like, who is doing this? What are some specific instances?
It's just the ideology today of the mainstream LGBT establishment, and I think if you ask most people, they know that to be true.
I think that's called an appeal to, or if you ask people and they know it to be true, that's not good evidence. You got to set the bar higher than that.
No, it's not. But they've lived it. That it's what every person. I mean, maybe things are different in Kentucky, but
yeah,
which is great. Like, I'll trade with you in a heartbeat.
Well, I still got to be real careful.
Maybe not in some ways, but
I wouldn't trade too quick.
Anyway, though, maybe let's move on. So you said there were things you wanted to bring up about the two parties, Democrat, Republican.
Okay, yeah. So it shouldn't be controversial to say that the Republicans have been pretty terrible on LGBT issues for a long time. Their most recent party platform that I'm aware of in 2016 was, and this is after same-sex marriages was legalized, exclusively saying that marriage is between a man and a woman. So it was explicitly anti-gay marriage. I know Trump has had a shit ton of policies, and they're been backed by Republicans. I don't think that's super controversial to say. And I have my own problem with Democrats. If you want to criticize Democrats, I'm there with you, but I want to criticize them from the left. So you're not going to hurt my feelings by insulting the Democrats. It's just how are you insulting them, and who are you telling them to walk? Where are you telling them to walk towards? Because the walk away campaign, walk away to where? Away from the Democrats. Are you coming to me? Or are you going to those people who I know are going to vote against me? And that's fine. That's fine. Well, it's fine if you don't want them to come left, but I really don't want you, especially don't want you to have gay people going to the right, because that is going to hurt us. And people are going to use that to say, see, look at all these gay people who agree with me. Look at these trans people who agree with me. Just because I don't think that we should have to call trans people by their preferred names doesn't mean I'm transphobic. So that's what I'm worried about.
But that's such a minority of people. And the more that they see people who are inclusive, first of all, there's a difference between Republican and right. I'm more right-leaning, but I'm not a Republican. It's my view that Republicans have sold out their values that they were built upon for the last number of decades. In terms of, now, obviously, they don't have a great history with the LGBT community. They don't have a great history with most minority groups. And that's, I think, how you feel about Democrats is how I feel about Republicans, basically. I want them to be better, though.
I'm getting like every third word. I'm sorry.
Sorry, what? What?
I'm getting every third word. You're cutting off a lot.
Shit. Do you think if I close this and reopen it, it'll let me back in?
I don't know. I wouldn't close your YouTube channel. But
it won't let me back in?
I don't know anything. Don't listen to me.
Let me, 1 second. Hopefully this will work. Damn it. I'm sorry, you guys. This is shit.
And just so you know, I want to get off here by 10:20. We're on the same time zone, so.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Finish our topic here and then answer some questions, and then let's go get to bed like responsible adults.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this to work.
Something you could do if you.
Hopefully you guys can hear. Can you guys hear me?
If it's really bad, you can just shut off your
computer,
and then you can still talk, but maybe that'll improve the.
What's that?
If you need, try shutting off your.
It's the window that says not responding. It's just the window says not responding. Okay.
Computers.
God damn it.
We can always come back to this.
Do you think I can close the window and get back in?
I'm scared to tell you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying.
So tell you what, if you're up for it, we can come back to this topic at another time. I would do this again with you. Let's start do some questions.
Sure.
If that's all right with you.
What's that?
Since we're having some difficulties, I'd be happy to do this again with you.
What'd you say?
We can come back to these topics. Let's end with some questions, if that's all right. Oh, shit. I've had a chat this whole time.
Can you guys hear what I'm saying? I'm going to look in the chat real quick. Can you guys?
I've had a chat this whole time.
Oh, yeah. You didn't know that? Yeah, I haven't been looking at it, but yeah. You guys, let me know if you can hear what I'm saying, if I should bother speaking. Okay, they say they can. So I'm just going to quickly make the point I was going to. I think Democrats were almost as anti-LGBT as Republicans for a long time. They like to select this one little piece of history, but every ounce of gay rights that past decade has just been undoing Bill Clinton's policies. They switched at the 11th hour as soon as it was polling at 51%.
So prior to the last
so I don't think, I think if being anti-LGBT were...
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is fun. So when you said that we've been undoing a lot of Democratic policies, what are you referring to?
Bill Clinton's policies. The DOMA, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the ban on...
Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA? That was a Clinton policy.
Sorry, what?
DOMA, D-O-M-A, Defense of Marriage Act. Is that one you're talking about too?
Yes, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
So DOMA, that was passed by Bill Clinton.
There were Republican policies also in the case of Congress.
The Clinton policy that you're talking about, us trying to undo for progress, that was voted 85-14 in the Senate. All 14 nays were Democrats, and every single Republican who voted for that, who could vote for that bill, voted for that bill. So it's, yes, that was passed by a Bill Clinton, and you will not find it.
Yes, but that's because that's when it became popular all of a sudden.
Democrats, when every single Republican voted for it, and the only people who voted against it were Democrats, I don't think that you're coming at that from the right angle. You want to hate on Bill Clinton? Go ahead. Saxophones, trumpets.
That is once it became popular.
Once it became
that's
popular,
when it became
absolutely.
Popular. Though.
Yeah,
they were those
it.
Same people, those same congressmen voted against it a million times.
It became popular, so it became more popular, and more politicians started endorsing it. You think that's what happened?
Democrats. I'm not, and the point I'm making is not in favor of but so it's not any sort of...
Who made it more popular for those politicians to start feeling like they could endorse it?
Damn, I didn't hear any of that.
So you made the claim that...
Shit, I can't hear anything you're saying. Okay. I'm sorry. God damn it, this sucks. I'm really sorry to you guys watching. We'll figure out a better system for next time. I forget what I was saying. Shit. Well, yeah, no. Anyway, just quickly, my point with that is that if Democrats have been allowed to evolve, Republicans should be allowed to evolve also. It's taken them longer. There are definitely still remnants of them being anti-LGBT, but they are significantly less anti-LGBT. And as time goes on, I would like to see them get to more of a place. And I think that's an important role that gay Republicans have had, where a lot of things that are happening now from Republicans you never would have seen 5 or 10 years ago. You never would have seen criminal justice reform. You never would have seen a global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality. So they're moving in the right direction. There are still things that I don't agree with. I don't agree with the trans ban. I don't agree with lots of things. But I think that there's an important role that gay conservatives are playing in bringing them to a more inclusive place.
So the Log Cabin Republicans were established like way back in the 1970s. So gay Republicans are not a new thing. And it seems like the existence of gay Republicans hasn't done a ton to push them further towards gay acceptance, especially considering, again, in 2016, they were explicitly against gay marriage. What might do that, they can move with pressure from the left. I don't think it's unfair to say that if the left is pushing gay rights, gay marriage, all this cool stuff, they push it into society, they push it into law, and then people just find out in general, no, gay marriage didn't destroy the entire universe. I think that makes it more accepting, and then it forces Republicans to say, hey, if we want to hold on to any part of the party, especially young people, we have to drop this from our platform. So yes, gay Republicans can play a part there, but to say that outside pressure,
well, I think right now it's a perfect storm.
Can't also play pressure. Can't pressure them into coming over here. We don't have to go towards them. We can make them come to us on the left, at least on this issue.
I only caught some of that, but I'm going to try to respond to what I heard. This sucks. But, well, I think it's a perfect storm of the left being crazy and Democrats being crazy and a lot of LGBT people feeling like we're resented by them. Like, politicians don't do things out of the goodness of their heart. They do it because they think it'll win them votes. And I think that's the same reason we're starting to see them being more inclusive of the Black community, because I think a lot of minority groups realize that they are not being well served, many of us, by Democrats, and Republicans need to try to win our votes just as much as anyone else.
So I guess 2 questions there. One, where's the evidence that a lot of
also I should say also, like, the swing vote on gay marriage was someone who's appointed by a Republican. So I don't think it's as one-sided. It was for a while, but I think that that's changing.
So we're pretty far off, and you're really choppy. Do you want to just stop it?
Damn, you too.
Yeah. Do you want to just stop it here and agree on a time to come back and do it again?
Yeah, probably. Does anybody have? Hopefully, you guys can hear. Does anyone have any questions you want us to answer? We should probably cut this short because sorry about the technical difficulties. But if anyone has questions, let them be known.
What, Jack?
What's that? Here we have one. They are asking me, having watched this SJW sorry, they're all coming in now. Having watched this SJW debates brought research, nuance, and details from studies and articles versus a kind of straw man construction you had. I don't agree with that at all. Did you change your mind on anything? You say, I definitely changed my mind on you, Justin. I'm happy that there are people like you. I thought you were coming here to like nail me to a cross, but so I definitely should not have judged you. And yeah, I'm happy that there are people on the left who are willing to debate things and have conversations. Question for Justin: should the Muslim woman who is being sued for not waxing the trans woman's balls be forced to wax balls by the government?
So that case up in Canada? I don't know. I'd have to do more research on it. I know vaguely about it, but I would need to do more research on it. I hope that's not a cop-out answer. But I don't feel comfortable answering things that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, no, same with me with lots of things. I do like chicken wings. Bisexual centrist asks, I'm wondering, can there be a middle? Yes, please. That's what I'm hoping for. But I don't think it will happen while the LGBT community is being so radical and so militant, and so you're either with us or against us. I don't see how there's any way that can happen in their current framework. Did you catch that, Justin? Did you catch that?
No, not any of it. I'm sorry. One more time.
Again. Anyway, we should maybe cut this short. Sorry, I'm so sorry, you guys, for the technical difficulties. Can you hear me, Justin?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, it's.
Are you there?
Kinda I can hear you. You're really delayed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
We'll
we
end it
should
here.
Cut it here.
We'll answer questions like later. If anyone wants to ask me a question personally, send me a DM or send me a message.
Someone asked me how I justify walking towards Republicans when they're trying to ban gay marriage and ban trans military service. That's a whole thing to get into. I don't see anywhere that Republicans are trying to ban gay marriage, and also I've never once said anyone should vote Republican or walk towards Republicans. I'm an independent, so being anti-Democrat doesn't mean being pro-Republican. Anyway, though, we should probably cut it off since this is a technical disaster. Anyway, though, I hope you guys can hear this. I really want to thank you so much, Justin, for being here. This was really great, and I hope we can do it again. It was really great talking to you.
With better equipment, hopefully. You have to, like, sacrifice to the right.
I know. Oh, I need a new computer horribly.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh, my God. This is such a mess. Thank you so much for coming, though. I really appreciate it.
I'd be happy to do it again.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. And thank you guys for watching. Or watching a choppy thing. Shit. All right. Say goodbye. Bye. Is this off? Oh my god, this thing is a fucking wreck. Shit. How do you turn this off?